This is Pixelated Zen presents Nostalgialess, where we review old and new without the nostalgia so you know it's true. Today's game is Spider-Man and Venom Separation Anxiety. Developed by Software Creation and published by Acclaim Entertainment, the game was released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, and holy shit, there was a PC version! Who knew? Not me, that's for sure, but it would have been friggin' awesome when I was younger. This is the sequel to Maximum Carnage, and from everything I could find as I went into the game, I expected it to be an awful experience. Seriously, according to Game FAQs, the game is somewhere between Feces and Aquaman. But is it really that bad? Let's find out. The first thing you're going to notice when you boot up the game is that the music is not the awesome Green Jelly rock-styled soundtrack from Maximum Carnage. This was a real letdown for me. I mean, I'm not a Green Jelly fan or anything, don't get me wrong, but the music was a nice change of pace from most video game music and I had really enjoyed it. Here though, it's acceptable. Nothing great, and I honestly wouldn't have been let down at all if I hadn't just played Maximum Carnage. Here, take a quick listen. The next thing you're going to notice is the cutscenes, I guess? They suck ass. Seriously, these are, and I am not joking here, these are cut and pasted from comic books that I actually own. Instead of the awesome comic book styled cutscenes from the first game, they just cut a couple of images of Spider-Man and Venom out of a comic book, threw it on the screen, and added a wall of text. It's another huge letdown with the game, and this time, even if I hadn't played Maximum Carnage, I would have noticed the shitty Photoshop work here. I mean, it looks like someone's first trip to 4chan, you know, before they start all the slash fiction images. Things are not looking good, to say the least. Then the game really starts and wow, things look really different. In Maximum Carnage, the sprites were huge and they took up most of the screen. Here, they're much smaller and much less detailed. At first, I was really disappointed, but that actually went away after a while. Sure, the sprites are not as detailed, but they are animated extremely well. It makes the attacks a little slow for my liking, but they just have so much character. It seriously impressed me. It just looks so smooth, almost like a cartoon. All except for this guy, anyway. The backgrounds are a lot bigger this time, and while the majority of reviewers I've seen said that the game levels were repetitive, I actually found them much more varied than in Maximum Carnage. I mean, in MC, the first 4 levels are a city street. The first 4 levels. In this game, each level is different, though they do take you back to a trap room every couple of levels, and that gets kinda old. Still, it's small and it's just a tougher battle overall, and they usually reward you with a 1-up or a health if you survive. Both Spider-Man and Venom are back for this game, and I know that this is a Spider-Man chronology review, but fuck that, I picked Venom. Who wouldn't, right? You have the same attacks for the most part as the first game. Punches, jump kicks, web pulls, web wraps, etc. You can also swing from a web, but just like in Maximum Carnage, it's utterly useless. Though, at least they added a single level where it was necessary this time. That's nice, I guess. Also, the double web grab is back, and while I can't pull it off, my wife apparently kicks ass at it. Other than that, the game's control the same, though I found it was easier to not accidentally grab enemies this time around. In fact, everything is easier this time around. You don't get continues, but you get a password system. Every few levels, it'll give you a password that'll let you start at that level with 3 lives and no items. This means that you can die as much as you want, and you get to keep restarting from a point that's not the very beginning. I'll take it. Still, I managed to beat the entire game as Venom in one day, in about 4 hours of playtime. It was extremely easy, but I'm not sure if that was solely the game's fault or the fact that I'd been playing the harder Maximum Carnage game for a week straight before that. I was a little let down, don't get me wrong, I liked that I was able to beat the game this time around, but it provided very little challenge. Thankfully though, the developers gave you a code once you've beaten the game that allows you to play in hard mode. I tried it. Holy fuck balls, it's ridiculous. It's much harder than Maximum Carnage, and I doubt I'll ever be able to beat it. But honestly, I want to try, and that's a big thing. Still, I already beat the game, and there aren't really any levels that break up the walk right and punch things mechanic. So why would I want to play through the entire thing a second time? Co-op, bitches! This game actually has it! And I corralled the wife into the room to play with me. Bless her heart, she agreed, and we spent the next 4 hours fighting for our lives. We didn't make it, but it was a lot of fun while we played. Some of the other reviewers were right about the repetitiveness though, but mainly in the enemies. The first level is a lot of the same enemies from Maximum Carnage. You got the trenchcoat guys, the GJ Jazzy Jeff guys, you got the hair whipping girls, and I actually like their redesigns. Then I saw the next level enemies, a totally new enemy with new looks. Awesome, they added some variety. No, they didn't. Instead, after level 1, these new guys are pretty much all you're gonna fight. They throw in a few robots as well, but no one likes fighting robots. It's a huge letdown, but at least they added some more interesting abilities to the enemies this time around, such as grenades, handguns, and rifles. So what about the bosses? The bosses, they did right. Instead of having 5 villains that repeat ad infinitum from Maximum Carnage, you now have 12. You get 6 members of the jury, which are some human guys with some tech gear, and 5 symbiotes that were taken from Venom. Sure, they aren't known villains, but the game is following a comic story called Venom Lethal Protector. Speaking of, the separation anxiety title is a damn lie. It's not that story at all. Still, each boss is a little different, and though they aren't really amazing video game bosses by any means, they were at least more varied than in Maximum Carnage. Oh, and I can count, we've only covered 11 bosses so far. The last one is Carnage, who you find at the very end of the game after defeating all other 11 bosses in a row. It was an intense challenge, one of the few I found in a normal playthrough. There were some really cool additions to the game overall, such as levels where you get to go into the background or foreground to progress to another area. It's not much, but it's better than walking left or right the entire time. They also had some shitty additions, such as several levels where the foreground items block your view of the fighting, and the inability to switch between Spider-Man and Venom unless you quit and enter the password to start at the last checkpoint. So what did I think of the game overall? I know people are going to rage over this, but honestly, I think it's a better game than Maximum Carnage. The music isn't as cool, and the sprites are less detailed, and the enemies do get repetitive, but the game is more fun. The animation is great, the level variety was enjoyable, and the password system combined with an easier game overall led to my not only liking the game, but trying to beat it more than once. Still, it's a rather simplistic beat-em-up, and it does have its issues. I can't give the game a total recommendation, but if you like beat-em-ups or you just really like Spider-Man, I'd pick it up and give it a go. Co-op if you can. If you don't like beat-em-ups, or you hold Maximum Carnage as some kind of pinnacle of gaming heaven, then you might want to pass on this and check out another game from the chronology.